in accordance to the relationship registrations, we will transfer this relation to the articulator. If we have a patient, we must make index within the bite inside the patient's mouth. We can make a V shape, or we can make that within the light body registration, light body silicone registration, to ensure the relationship in the patient mouth precisely transformed to the articulator without any error. Okay? Unfortunately, we don't have a patient mouth, and the centric it should be performed in the lab. So in the previous lab, we mentioned that the bite had a benefit and many advantages when we carry out in the patient mouth. We can make a smile line here. We can make the midline regarding to the face profile. We can make the corner of the mouth. Okay? So otherwise, there is no patient mouth now. We can depend it upon the incisive papilla. So if we have a patient, we can replicate the information from the patient mouth, and we will transfer it to the articulator, and we will assign in the bite. It will be assessed to arrangement the teeth within the aesthetic zone, within the function zone, within the occlusal plan. So our objective in this lab, we will make arrangement to the anterior teeth, but within the occlusal plan. Okay? So regarding to the occlusal plan, in the laboratory we have a table. Okay? We will put the table in the articulator. We can remove the lower from the upper. Okay? And as our objective now, we want to make arrangement to the teeth in accordance to the occlusal plan. Okay? What's that meaning? The occlusal plan, it will be passed from the top of the central incisor for the lower until to reach to the last cusp of the molar, and will contact with what? Reach to the retromolar bud. Okay? So regarding to the midline, we will assign the laboratory one. We will depend upon the incisive papilla. Okay. So regarding to the lines that we will mark in the cast, we need to make this line upon the crest of the ridge will represent the center of the ridge. It will be substantially used within the arrangement of posterior teeth. Okay? To be sure there is no deviation from the center of the ridge. And we have the canine eminence. You can make a corner of the mouth that will refer to the corner of the mouth. As well as we can make a registration in the patient mouth regarding to the smile line and with the height smile. I will assign in the maximum. I will depend it within the patient mouth. Okay. If you don't have this information, you can depend upon the canine eminence that will represent the corner of the mouth. So this information, it will be taken by the patient. There is no patient now. So regarding to the upper teeth, our aspiration, our objective to make this arrangement here. You can see the central incisor and lateral as well as the canine. What's the criteria that will be performed in the arrangement? The central incisor, the long axis of the central incisor, it should be vertical. Okay? So the incisal edge should be ultimately attached to the table. Okay, there is no any inclination in the long axis. Okay, regarding to the central incisor. When I make evaluation or I make a check to the central incisor from the distal surface, it will be protruded labially, but with the limited level, okay? Because we have a support for the lip line. You can remember our bite rim, it will be protruded labially, okay? It will be stimulate this shape, okay? The central incisor should be promoted labially. So you can see I will dependently adopt my bite rim within the arrangement because it will produce all information and index that will be assessed in the teeth arrangement. So regarding to the lateral incisor, this is the long axis, it should be vertical. The lateral incisor should be an inclination little bit, okay? But my recommendation, don't make an inclination, okay? To the long axis. You can make it, but we don't have, may we use it within the lower if we need it, okay? Make an inclination to the distally. But please, this is the mandatory one. The lateral incisor, it should be do not touch the table, okay? The lateral incisor, do not touch the table. But please preserve the contact area. If you had within the contact area, you had a central within the table, okay? If you follow the contact area, it's automatically produced, there is no attaching the table, okay? So, we had a contact area within the lateral incisor, and we don't have any contact area here, okay? So, the mandatory one, this portion, it should be protruded, okay? Protruded labially, okay? Regarding to the canine, please don't make any inclination in the canine. Instead of that, the shape of the canine, it will reveal to the inclination, not within the arrangement. The long axis of the canine, the shape, the anatomical shape, labially, it revealed to that there is an inclination in the canine. So make it within the vertical axis, okay? يعني it will parallel, this is a vertical axis. There is a long axis, a vertical axis. The long axis, it should be parallel to the vertical axis. Make a revision, there is no inclination here. If you want to make an inclination here, my recommendation, don't make it, okay? For the canine, don't make any inclination. But the canine, it is very useful or a critical position, because in this area, we will altering the arrangement to follow the posterior region, okay? So the canine, it should be just in this area, okay? This segment, it should be clear from the labial, okay? At the posterior, this area, it should be, at the distal aspect, this area, it should be clear, okay? What I mean, when put the canine, it should connect the anterior within the posterior. Okay, only this segment from the labial margin, okay, to this slope, only this area should be clarified within the, if I see it, okay? And this area should be height from the posterior, okay? So we will try to make these criteria now. You can remove this one, but in the one condition: the bite, it should be alternately contact with the table. There is no gap here, okay? And you can assign the index here to retain it and secure it in the further stage. You can remove it now. So regarding to the midline, I can transfer it from the patient mouth but there is no patient mouth now. We will totally depend upon the incisor papilla. So what I can now do, remove one segment of wax to provide a sufficient space to the central incisor, okay? But don't remove all the wax, because the wax, it will support it and make the arrangement more visible. Now make a molding here to prepare the position of the central incisor. Make initial check regarding to the attached of the incisal to the table. This is very necessary. But for the lateral, you can make it within the one level. If you had our patient, if we had a class 3, you can make it within the level. But the ideal one, we will start within this criteria. We can make altering to this criteria if we need it, okay? So you can now make another remolding to the wax to ensure that the central should attach the table within the perfect position and the midline should be preserved. There is a mistake now, because my aspiration is that the central incisor should be what? Should be protruded labially to support the lip, to stimulate the shape of the wax, okay? So remove a sufficient amount of wax and prepare the socket for the central incisor and put it in this shape. You can see it will be within the level of the bite. Within the level of the bite, okay? Yes, you can compare it with the wax, because our wax is protruded labially to support the lip. So if I can make adjustment in the patient mouth, I need to add more wax to provide good support. This support, it will be transferred for the artificial teeth, okay? This is a contact now within the table. Now this is proclination to the labially, toward the labial, and now make a sealing to provide a final seal within the central incisor. For the lateral incisor, there is two conditions. If you want to make it within the level of central incisor, some reference say that, because if we have old patient, if we have parafractional movement, if we don't pay care to the aesthetic, we will make it within one level. But basically, typically, we will start with no contact. If we want to apply the balance occlusion criteria, because it will affect it to the incisal guidance, okay? These criteria is it will be performed in accordance to the balance occlusion criteria, because I want to make the compensate curve and curve of Wilson, it will be produced within this law, okay? We have two laws, for the lower or the upper. If you want to make upper within the table to this criteria until to reach the posterior, it is perfect. I will make a lower according to the upper, okay? If we have a lower, some companies provide a special tables for the lower, okay? We can make it within the criteria of lower, and the upper should be included according to the lower. But more easier one for a practice is to start within the upper, okay? Now regarding to the lateral, make a socket to the lateral, remove a sufficient amount of wax to prepare a socket, and keep cleaning, because if there is no cleaning here, the wax, it will lose the properties. Now I will take my lateral and I will check if I have any mistake. Please start within the contact area. You can see the contact area of central incisor at the medial side in the incisal third, but near to the cervical. Okay, it means not in the junction between the middle and incisor third, just in the incisors, more incisally. Okay, but for the lateral incisor, the contact area, the maximum curvature, it will locate it. We had a rounded shape in the lateral, so the maximum coverage will locate it as well as in the incisal third, but more cervical, towards cervically. You can start within the contact area. If I make it the contact area, we already had the space here, just 2 millimeters, okay, 0.5, okay, or just there is no contact. Why I make this criteria? Not for aesthetic only, because this law I will make it to the anterior region for the upper and the lower, and for posterior region for the upper and the lower. So I had a rules I will apply to produce the concept of the balance occlusion. Okay, regarding to the anatomical of teeth the shape of the teeth, it will be occluded aesthetically, because I had overbite, overjet, okay, to provide all feature, function, and the aesthetic, as well as to perform the criteria of the balance occlusion. Because if I had a semi-adjustable one, I will make adjustment to the balance occlusion. I need contact in the anterior region and the posterior region. Okay? So this is very essential to make that. We had many concepts in the arrangement. We had a lingualized one, we had a monoplan one, and the most popular or most functional one is the balance occlusion. The balance occlusion involves many criteria I will perform. Start within the orientation of the upper, within the face bow, until to reach the final one within the arrangement of teeth. Okay? So the criteria, it will be sequentially applied in the lab and the clinic stage. So you can see my recommendation, don't make an inclination here now. Just make the other side and the lower if you need to add it for aesthetically. It does not impact any criteria for this rule. Okay? So just keep a space here. Okay? Just keep a space. But generally, you can leave this space according to the case. Okay? If we have a class 3 one, if we have the old patient with a parafunctional, we don't care about this space. Okay? But now we will start with the standard criteria. Okay? Regarding to the, you can fold the melting wax here to provide good sealing. So please, when make arrangement, don't make any carving. Don't cover the tooth with a wax. The long axis should be clearly identified. Why? To make a double check, to make evaluation to the long axis. Don't put any wax upon the teeth. Just remove it, remove the wax to evaluate the long axis of the tooth. Okay? After that, I will make a carving according to the interpapillary space and other features. Now, you can see this portion, it should be prominent, so the lateral, it should be pushed lingually. Okay? It will be effective the overjet and the overbite. Okay? I can make adjustment within the lower. Okay? This is not final decision, but I will start with this criteria. Okay? Regarding to the canine need special care or need special criteria. The canine shape it will, the canine shape will provide two side for, this is a cornerstone of the arch, okay? It provide the two surfaces. One surface for the anterior region, okay? And this will impact the golden proportion. If you make a count to the golden proportion, you count just this area, not all canine, okay? Yani if we have a golden proportion now, I will account the central within the lateral and this portion. So this portion, it will impact the aesthetic. When you make a build-up, when you make a veneer, when you make arrangement within the teeth, the canine is very critical position to make a good proportion to the anterior and the posterior. We have two surfaces, one surface for the anterior, and we have inclination labial ridge toward distal. On the other side, it will provide the starting aspect, initial aspect for the posterior region. Okay? So take more care to the canine, please. So generally, we need to make a contact with the tip only, okay? Within the tip only, and we have a contact with the central as well as in the canine. Just only the lateral should no contact. Make a sufficient space to the canine. But be sure this arrangement should be performed upon the crest of the ridge. Please don't make it out of the ridge. Okay? If you had a good bite trim within the ridge, you will don't make any mistake. But if your bite trim is out of the ridge, it will be what simulate your work to make arrangement of the ridge. Make a check if you want to make a check now. Okay? This is out of the ridge. Please, this is one note here regarding to the central incisor. Okay, if you want to make ideal position for the central incisor, okay, if we have a patient mouth, it should be positioned in front of the incisive papilla in about 8 millimeters. We had a special tools to measure this. To measure this length, okay? But generally, if you don't have the tools, you can make sure or make a double check to the central incisor. It should be in front of the maxilla, in front of the incisive papilla. Generally, within the no exo, within the natural condition, the incisive papilla located in the just behind the central incisor. But after extraction, after resorption, the incisive papilla is not displaced. The other tissue surrounding it will be displaced. So after resorption, the appropriate position of the central incisor should locate it in front of the incisive papilla. So the incisive papilla give two main criteria. One for the midline, if you don't have a reference in the patient mouth, and the second one, the position of the central. So this is the start segment for the anterior teeth. Sometimes some technician or some lab start with the molar. This is a good step. But you don't have the appropriate position to the central. Okay? Our recommendation in the literature, start with the central incisor within this measurement and follow the arrangement of the posterior teeth. What I mean now, you can make a check. This is the central incisor. This is incisive papilla. You can see it's about 6 to 8 millimeter. Okay.
The space between
yes, the distance between the central incisor
and the central.
We had a special tools, a Balmer gauge. Just measure this criteria, and you can evaluate it to the proclination of the upper bite. Okay. This is a very critical position, okay, for the central incisor, because I want to make a support, I want to make overjet. The overjet of the lower, it will be dependent upon the original position of the central. Okay, you can see we have a references. In the natural way, we have a references. We start with the standard point and we will make a further one according to the first one. So we will return to the canine, please. Sorry about this conflict. The canine, I just make it within the contact area. This is a wrong arrangement because it should be, yes, it should be had a proclination. I removed excess of flux here. This is my mistake. Please keep silent. You can see the canine now. Provide a corner segment to the anterior. So this slopes is within the lateral. I will make adjustment to the canine. So only this surface, it should be seen in the labial aspect, okay? So make a check. The contact, the tip, it should be make a contact within the table, okay? So the shape of the canine will provide 3 criteria without any movement. Just put it in the proper position. The shape of the canine, not your movement, it will produce 3 criteria. There is a natural inclination to the distal regarding to the shape of the canine. If you put it in the natural position, okay? Don't make the inclination by yourself. Just put it in the proper position. It should provide inclination to the distal. This is one. This aspect it should be only seen in the labial aspect. Okay? So the labial margin, you can see we had an inclination to the distal. So only this, the tip of the canine, it should be contact as in central incisor. So if you want to make a double check, this portion it should be prominent, but don't make the incisal third of the cast third. Don't push lingually. Okay? Don't push lingually. Just the lower canine, we can't do it with it. Just keep it within the level and make sure, if you want to make a double check, this is not movement to be performed. If you want to make a double check, this portion it should be prominent, as in central incisor. When I see it, it is prominent. Okay? Regarding to the long axis, it should be parallel to the vertical axis. Okay? Now, make sure there is a contact here. The contact, it should what? It will be decreased in the level toward the middle third now. Okay, this is the main criteria for the central and lateral, the anterior teeth, and for one side, central and lateral as well as the canine. So according to the principles and fundamentals, we arranged the 3 anterior teeth for one side. Make a revision because I will make another side with the same principle. So you can see now the central incisor is fully contacted here within the table. So the long axis of the central incisor is parallel to the vertical axis. So be sure the central incisor is upon the crest of the ridge. Regarding the lateral incisor, you have two choices. If you want to make inclination to the distal, that's right. But my recommendation, don't make it now because you had a practice now. After that, you can start to add these features. According to the endoscopy, you can make a tilting in the lateral and in the lateral, okay, as well as in the posterior. I will mention that in the further lab. So regarding to the lateral, my recommendation: don't make any inclination. Okay, just put it in the vertical axis. Okay, may we need to make inclination in the further stage when I accomplish my other side. After when I arrange my lower teeth, and regarding to the result, I will make an inclination. Okay, so in the first stage, don't pay attention to that rule. For the canine, I am saying the canine should be the long axis of the canine. Is a mandatory one. Please, this is a mandatory one. It should be parallel to the vertical axis. There is no any inclination. Instead of that, I'm saying the shape of the canine that revealed it will be shown that we had an inclination within the shape, not within the tooth. You can to be honest within the lateral as well as within the lateral. Okay, because we had the anatomical landmark will be inclined distally. Okay, so put it the teeth in the vertical axis now, because in the initial practical work, you cannot perform all criteria. So start with the more fundamental one. After that, addition the advanced features. This is my recommendation for the beginner. So for the canine, it should be touch the table because this is occlusal plan. So this area should be prominent. As well as this area should be prominent regarding to the anatomical landmarks of the canine. Okay? When I put it in the correct position, it will make a result for these features. Okay? So I pay attention to the canine as I mentioned in the previous lab. This is because the cornerstone of the arch, and I will alter the curve of the teeth. So the anterior teeth, it should be preserved. The curve of the anterior teeth, you can make evaluation from the distal aspect. For the central incisor, it should be had a proclination. For the lateral incisor, this area should be prominent because we have. This is regarding to the anatomical, not fundamentals of the arrangement. We already had a severe convexity in the lateral toward the lingual. So it should be naturally result in what? The lateral, it should be not exceed this surface. This surface, it should be under this surface. Okay? So you can make evaluation with the contact area. Make it with the most curvature in the contact area. So regarding to the canine, we have the labial ridge, we have inclination, we have a prominent area. The most convexity in the canine, it will be located in the middle portion. So that's what we say. We just put it the canine in the normal position, and the anatomical landmark, it will be assessed to perform these criteria. So I will start within the other side. The central incisor on the other side. Some criteria, I will remove the sufficient amount of wax. If you had incorrect bite trim and incorrect, you can make it with the handpiece too. But my recommendation is start with the small size of the teeth. This is a fundamental for complete denture. So I can remove the sufficient amount of the wax, and I have already the midline. And make the central incisor with the same criteria. Remove the sufficient amount of the wax. Be sure the record base is not had any elevation, because we had a 22 millimeters. This is a sufficient amount. We don't have a patient now. There's any problems, no any issue with the arrangement, because there's for practical lab. Now just make a mounting to the socket of the central incisor and start to put the central incisor in the correct position with the same criteria. Just pay attention to the midline. Please remove any wax in this area. Please, this wax, it will be compromised your sight. So I need to make sure the contact area, it should be put it in the proper position. So if I had a narrow space, make another one and make a mounting here, and say to the wax to sustain your teeth from the behind, from the lingual aspect. Don't remove all wax, because this wax, it will be guided you in the normal, in the good result, because we already had a curve here, we had A central incisor should be exceed 1 millimeter from the wax, 0.5, sorry. So preserve the midline and make double check from all aspects, from the as a bird view, from the top, from the proximal, to be sure the curve it will be start within the same criteria. You can see this is the curvature, it will be prominent here, so I will make it as in the other side. And we'll check the midline, so don't make the teeth without contact. So this is my midline now. You can make a check to the incisive pin. Regarding to the bite. So I will make my midline at point, there's no patient, there's no reference. I will make the midline according to the incisive papilla when I said in the previous lab. So just remove the wax here and make a double check to the midline is in correct position. Sometimes this table is not manufactured, we had error with it. So make a depend to this line, regarding to the incisive papilla. Okay, so now make a final sealing now, and be sure there is a contact here in the central incisor. So be sure the curve it will be follow the first one, because I'm start to put it my lateral in the other side. So should we stimulate the same curvature within this side? Okay. So I think the central incisor is good position, normal position. There is any no conflict here. I will start with the lateral now. Make a sufficient space for the lateral. Remove the sufficient amount of the wax and start to put it the lateral as in the other side with the same criteria, and be sure this area should be clean. There is no wax here, okay, because I want to evaluate my contact area. So the contact area from the distal in the central incisor, it will be located in the incisal portion but toward the cervically. I mean is in the end of the incisor. It will not in the junction. It's as in the in the junction of the middle and the it is in what? In the incisal thread but toward the cervically. In the incisal portion but toward the so you can see the according to the manufacturers of the artificial teeth. Maybe you have issue with this criteria. You can see this is the maximum coverage here. I will make a contact with the maximum coverage. This is your fundamentals. Okay? Follow this fundamentals. The maximum coverage, it will be located here. So the maximum coverage of the lateral, it should be located here. So I will make a contact within, according to the maximum coverage of the proximal surfaces. So regarding to the inclination, my recommendation, don't make any inclination now. Instead of that, just put it in the vertical axis. Okay? So make a check for the space. You need only 0.5. Don't make it severe. So I think I had a mistake in the curvature. I pushed my central incisor to follow the curvature. So make a double check. I will see it from all aspects. And make a check to the curvature. So I will start to make this curve to compensate the curve of the anterior region. And now there is a tiny space here. It seems good. And make a complete to the all criteria to the lateral incisor. And in the previous lab I mentioned that. Just we have the midline and the curve to be maintained. So sometimes this table is not good. Be sure the table is parallel. So now this seems good because I have a contact area. If you want to make an inclination, don't make that my recommendation. So this is the lateral, this is a curve, it will be follow this curve. I will be sure there is no out of the ridge, because my ridge, it will be the crest of the ridge, it will be here. Okay, you can see it, you can make a double check here from the bottom. You can put it your lacron in the crest of the ridge and be sure the vertical axis, it will follow the position of the crest of the ridge. So it seems good. Now, I will start with the canine according to the criteria of the canine. So it is, I will repeat the procedure on the other side. Just I need to preserve the curve and maintain the midline. So regarding to the canine, just put it in the vertical axis, within the parallel to the vertical axis, and make sure the contact area in the correct position. So you can make initial checking upon the table, and you can see the mistakes of the canine in with the matching or mismatching with the other canine. So I think I need to make an adjustment here. So just put it with the vertically. The long axis of the canine should be parallel to the vertical axis. This is a vertical axis. Don't make any inclination. Be sure there is a space here. And now make a final check, and you can see the curve, it will be follow the canine corner with a proper position, and there is no any blame about that curve. So make a seal, but be sure the teeth, it should be not burn out. Make another seal here. Be sure the contact area, it should be contact in the comfort zone. You know what I mean that? Don't make the teeth, make just contact in the maximum coverage. Okay? And preserve the long axis vertically. Okay? So you can see, this is the pressure, it will be represent the tissue surface. The free gingiva, it will extend here, and I will make a mimic by the acrylic board or by any material. So this area should be remind to mimic the free gingiva. Okay? So just only the contact area, it should be contact with the maximum coverage. Okay, if you want to make evaluation to your arrangement. So make a final sealing here, and be sure the midline is correct position. Don't pay attention to this table, because this table is not good. So I had a reference here within the midline. So make a sealing here to provide final luting to the teeth. So after that, I will start with the lower teeth. Okay? And put it your lower. And make initial evaluation to the lower. You can see now, if your bite rim in correct contour, you can see what's the meaning for this area. You can see this space. We had a space here. Yes, overjet, and we have overlapping here. You can see if I am follow the criteria of the upper, the lower, it will be correctly produced. Okay? So now, there is no table here, there is no incisive pin here. Please, we had a one reference now. The bite rim, it should be fully adapted within the box. It will be to avoid the error in the vertical dimension. Okay? So now, I will transfer my midline to the lower. And I will start with the lower teeth. For the lower teeth, don't make one side. Make two centrals. Okay? To avoid the mismatching or mistake or any issue within the midline shift. To avoid the shifting in the midline. Make two centrals in the correct position, and you can add another teeth, okay? But before that, remove the excess of wax from here, because I don't need this wax in the lingual aspect, because it will be because I need to make overjet and overlapping here. So remove the excess of wax. So in the consequently, we will make a carving here in the further stage, okay? The cingulum and all features of the lingual should be clarified within the wax, okay? So remove the wax to avoid the compromise of your sight when you work. So remove the wax, but be sure don't push the teeth and altering the normal position. Remove all wax from the lingual aspect to provide good sight for the lingual aspect, because I will make a checking to the to the lingual aspect, because I had the overjet and overbite. Don't work with the excess of wax. Remove all of excess of wax, but preserves this portion, because I had a contact here with the lower bite. Now I will start to make occluding. Now the relation, it will be start here, okay? The relation will be start here, because what we have a lower. There is not just individual, we don't have upper now. We have a lower regarding to the upper. So the rules, I can make it with the lower, and I will make the upper regarding to the lower. And we have the specific table for the lower, okay? And we have the same rules for the lower. For instance, the central incisor of the lower, it should be exceed the bite rim in about 1 millimeter. So in our practice, we will start it from the upper. So now I would make the arrangement of the lower regarding to the upper. So what I need now to perform the lower, it should be more difficult. Why? It's not more difficult, but it should be pay attention to the lower, because I will make the rules of the arrangement for individual tooth regarding to the inclination and proper position. And I will make the matching with the midline, and I will make what? Make overjet and overbite. You can see, this is your task now. Now I will transfer my line, and it is easily to remove the wax from the bite. And you can see this contour of the lower, it should be guided you to the curve, okay? Now I prepare my socket. Don't remove severe one, and just be sure the crest of the ridge. Remove the wax here, and to be sure the crest of the ridge should be clarified in the wax to avoid putting the tooth in the out of the ridge. And you can make evaluation here. Sometimes I'm referred to put it my line here, and I follow this line to avoid the outening of the ridge. The first lower teeth, I'll make evaluation to the midline. Just put it here in the proper position to evaluate the midline. So the midline seems good. Make another deviation in the lower teeth to make the midline is more correctly. Now this is the position of your tooth, okay? Now what I need now, I need to make the central incisor with the proper position, in accordance to the criteria. The criteria to start with the 1 point, I need to put it, the central incisor of the lower teeth parallel to the vertical axis in the same principle as in the central incisor. You can see it should be parallel to the vertical axis. The long axis, it should be parallel to the vertical axis. So if you want to make the parallel axis here, this is a parallel axis, so it should be parallel to the vertical axis, this one, okay? Don't make any inclination in the bite rim. So after that, the labial aspect, when I make a checking from the distal, from the proximal, it should not have the proclination as in central. Okay, not severe proclination. Okay, because I will check this proclination according to my overjet. So push the central to have a proper position regarding to the upper. Make it vertical in the vertical axis, parallel to the vertical axis. Don't make any inclination. Now, you can now make a checking to the overjet. Generally, basically, we have incisal guidance. According to the incisal guidance, generally the complete denture we need 1 millimeter only for the overbite and the overlap. In the fundamentals of the orthodontic and the general the natural criteria, we need 2.4 and we need 1 to 3 millimeters for overlap. So in the complete denture, just make it 1 millimeter now. Okay, don't make it severe because we already had a class 1. Generally, in the complete denture, we don't need to make the overjet and overlap to be severe because we will lose the rotation with it. And as well as we must make that according to the incisal guidance. I want to make alternating to the overjet, but typically start with the 1 millimeter. In our practical now, we don't have a patient, don't have a fully adjustable, don't have semi-adjustable. We will adopt the 1 millimeter only, okay, for complete denture. And naturally, the most proper overjet and overlap in the complete denture, it should be 1 millimeter, okay, if you don't have a reference of the incisal guidance, okay. Now, this is 1 millimeter. It is good. The central incisor, it had a parallel to the vertical axis, no inclination here, no severe proclination because I'm already put it within the overjet here, and we have overlapping 1 millimeter. There is no any defect here. Now you can start with another one. Don't make a lateral now. Just be sure to perform the midline within the lower teeth. So after that, I will start with the lateral. So remove the sufficient amount of the wax and start to put it the central incisor in the same position, in the same criteria to preserve the midline, because the midline it should be ended at this stage, okay? Because we had a midline within the upper, so we need to perform the midline with 4 anterior teeth, okay? For the lower and the upper. Regarding to the midline, it will be produced with the last stage of the, I will make another melting to the wax. Don't put it the teeth with the narrow position. Make a good citation. If you need to make removing from the record base, removing from the teeth, and start with the arrangement. Don't make it visible, because the arrangement I need to hide a freedom in the teeth arrangement. Okay. So now make a melting here, and regarding to the central, you had a reference here. Put it in the same position now, and make initial checking to the central incisor. I think we have a defect here. Come pushed to the lingual. This is still we had a mistake here. Make a double check why we had a mistake, because it's out of the ridge. Now you can see we had a wax here. We will remove it to have a freedom in the movement of the tooth. So make a double check here. Now I think the curve it will be start from here. Now make a double check. Regarding to the curve of the upper, it is good, but here we have a mistake, and then we will make a turn to the lateral, to the central incisor, to be in the same orientation of the other one, and now make a check. It is good. Now we have a midline here. We have a midline here. Okay. Sometimes this screw is should be secured. Please make it precisely secured. Don't make any movement now because we already had a honolo. Don't need it now. So this is the midline. This is the 1 millimeters overjet, and we had a 1 millimeters overlapping. Make a double check to all aspects from the top. We have a severe rotation here. You can see we had a mistake. If you make evaluation from the top, now I think now we can make a lateral, but don't make another tooth. Please make sure all criteria performed in one tooth. After that, make another one. Okay? To avoid, because the mistake, it will be followed to all teeth. Yes, it will be continuous. I think it's good. What's your opinion about this arrangement, about the midline? It is good now, okay? So you can see, this is my double check. I will make another check. Don't start with another one. Please pay attention to the one to be performed all the criteria for one tooth. After that, start with the another one. But I think I had a severe rotation here, but it's not necessary to make adjustment now. Just I will make a lateral. So for the lateral, in the same criteria, we have a principle for the lower teeth. If you want to make a principle of the lower teeth, just pay attention to this comment. We had a rules when we can use the theory and any reference. We have criteria for the lower teeth. We have the criteria same as in what? In the central incisor. If you want to perform the criteria of the lower, you can make the upper teeth according to the lower. But these criteria, when I performed, it will be precisely performed. It will be what affect and impact the upper teeth when I make the upper teeth. For our practical, we started from the upper teeth. So if I say the lateral incisor, it should be exceed the lower bite. It should be within the level of the lower bite. The same criteria when I perform the overjet for the upper, because we already had a occlusal plan. I perform these criteria. Don't pay attention to these criteria because we had individual principles for upper or the lower. Okay, so don't pay attention to that. Instead of that, pay attention to the overjet because we already had upper teeth with the fundamentals, with the criteria, with the academic criteria. This is my comment. So regarding to the lateral incisor, the one criteria is said it should be exceed the lower bite from don't make it, don't need it because we already had a criteria in the upper. You can make one only, okay? When make it the upper, and pay attention to the overlap and the overjet. Okay? Same one. It's the same. Regarding the overjet and the overbite. Okay? Now I can put it my lateral incisor within the contact. Please make a sufficient room to the lateral incisor to put it without any issue. And the lateral incisor, the second criteria say we had a proclination. Okay? Why? Because you can see the space in the lateral aspect within the central aspect. It is what? We had a sufficient space. I need to make a proclination to the lateral. Okay? To stimulate the curve, it will be reformed. It will be in the curve that produced within the curve. Let me to make a check for this criteria. Now, the principle, the normal principle, I need to make overlap for the for the upper teeth to 2 teeth for the lower. This is the normal principle, okay?
What do you mean by 2 teeth?
Yes,
يعني upper central and lateral?
yes. I mean, one lower tooth it should be occluded with the 2 upper teeth.
2 lower with the 1 upper.
No, please.
One lower, 2 upper.
Yes, one lower with the 2 upper. You can see the central and the lateral, it will be occluded with the 1. Okay? Why? Because we have a difference in the width. In the width, you can see the width of the central is not same in the lower central. So that will be generated these rules. Okay? Be sure the contact area should be good. Now, you can make a tiny inclination, but don't make it. No, for the distally, don't make it. Just put it in the vertical. You can add this feature for the aesthetic. But my aspiration is now to put the tooth in the normal position, okay? What's the problem here? What's the problem here? We have a 1 millimeter here with the proclination, but we don't have a space overjet within the lateral. That means my lateral is incorrect. It is normal to make a change in the upper, okay?
So we should change the upper?
Yes, because my objective is just upon the table. Okay, and I can make a proclination here. So it will produce by the residual stress in the wax. If you leave it, the teeth, it will be changed within the residual stress.
Why not we change the lower, for example?
For what?
For making the space for the overjet. Making the...
Regarding to the lateral, I had a mistake here. I will make a correction to the contact area. So put it another amount of the wax and put the lateral incisor regarding to the criteria. It should be within the contact area and it should be preserves the same overjet that will be performed in the central incisor. What does that mean? I need 1 millimeters. Though the lingual aspect of the central incisor is not lingual, is same as the lingual aspect of the lateral. We had a difference here. Okay, we have a thickness here. So I need to push my lateral labially to compensate this space. Okay, to preserve 1 millimeters. The criteria is say the long axis of the tooth should slightly labially, sloped labially. Why? Because I want to preserve the 1 millimeters. Okay? So this is the 1 millimeters. Okay? Regarding to the bite, if you want to make it with a bite, we had make we don't make exceeded from the bite. Because why? No, we need to make within the central incisor because we had a shortage to compensate this shortage. Sometimes you can make the lateral incisor higher than the central. Why? Why I need to make that? To compensate this space here
1 millimeter space
of the lateral. Okay? So leave these criteria. Why? Because I'm already had a criteria within the table. Just preserves 1 millimeter to the overjet and the overlap of the overbite and the overjet. The double check we had for aesthetic, we had a proclination here, and we have 1 millimeter overjet and 1 millimeter overbite. 2 upper teeth, it will be included with 1 tooth. Okay, we had a contact here, we had a pressure area here. Don't need to make any inclination. Okay. Now I will start with the canine. The canine is not big issue, but the lower canine, it should look the corner of the mouth. all criteria of the corner of the mouth, it should be located within the upper and the lower canine. So pay attention to the lower canine. So the lower canine, we had a freedom to make all movement. You can make it lingually. You can make it inclination to the distal, to the medial. Okay, you can push to the lingual. Why? To produce the canine relationship. So I need now to put it the canine. It's my mistake. Yes. I must preserve all criteria of the corner of the mouth. It should be included with the two teeth. It should be make the canine relationship. It will represent the class 1 criteria regarding to the normal occlusion. Okay? This is the main objective of the orthodontist, to make the canine relationship. Okay? So the canine, you have a freedom to perform all the criteria, okay, regardless of the position. Make it, please. Make these criteria. The criteria is more essential to be performed within the canine. So, if I had a correct position to all teeth, I will put my canine here. You can see now, make initial checking to the position of canine. What I need from the lower canine? What I need? In the first one, I should preserve the contact area. So please, now make inclination. If you need, make. My recommendation to make inclination. Okay, to avoid the interference with the upper. Why? Because I need what? You can see this occlusion. I need what for the canine? I need to make a canine relationship. The two teeth should be occluded with the one teeth. Okay? So you can make inclination, and with the scientific fundamentals, I can push it lingually to produce these criteria. Now, make a double check to the overjet and the overbite. You can see this is the 1 millimeter, this is the 1 millimeter. This is my mistake in the upper. Just push it because I had a severe curve here. You can see you can make a correction to the upper. It is not a guilty for you. You can make it because I need to find a result. But this I when pushed and I correct my curvature, it is with the same rules, the same space, just altering the curve to compensate, to make a matching within the lower. Okay? Now I can say the canine is normal position, but I think we need to make a contact area to remove this space here.
So we shouldn't have any overjet and overbite?
Yes, we make it. We make an overjet and overbite. Why? Because the overjet and overbite, it should be extend to the canine.
Extend to the
Yes, for all anterior teeth. Okay? With the same 1 millimeters.
same one.
If you had a severe anatomical teeth, you can make evaluation. The labial ridge, it should be included within this group. Okay? You can see it will be anatomically inclined to distal, and we had anatomically inclined to the medial. So this ridge, it should be included within this groove. Okay? Between the mamelons. Okay? Yes. But sometimes we don't have an anatomical teeth. Just preserve the overjet and the overbite. And now, regarding to the curve, please, in the same criteria in the upper, I will start my posterior teeth within this corner. So we had a two aspect. This aspect, it will be represent the anterior teeth, and we will make a rotation to start to make a curve in the posterior. Okay? Now I will make a correction to the upper canine to provide the same thing. when I make a correction in the upper, so I don't need make inclination now. But sometimes with the patient mouth, it is mandatory to be performed because I cannot preserve the one level of overjet overbite. I need to make inclination. This is for you. If you want to make it, you can do it. Okay? You can push it lingually. You can make inclination, but not severe, and preserve the aesthetic. To what? To produce the canine relationship with the normal criteria. That's it. I think make a double check here. What's your opinion about that?